I'm going to use the idea of the electric fence to show you how to checkmate your opponent's king if all you have on the board is a queen and a king. It's white's move, so the first thing that we'll do is we'll take the queen and we'll set up an electric fence right in front of the king. So this whole line here is now an electric fence, and if you remember, a king cannot move in to check, so here's the electric fence, and it's the boundary that the king cannot pass. So I'll move the king here. As a general rule, when you have an electric fence with a queen, and the queen is going up against the king, you want to keep the queen a knight move away from the king. So here I'm going to move the queen a knight's move away from the king. And again, a knight kind of moves in the shape of a letter L. So here's our letter L right here. We still have our electric fence here, but we also have an electric fence here. And now the king is trapped to this small area right here. And just like I had shown you with the trash compactor, you use the queen to try to compact the king into a smaller and smaller space. Let's say that the king moves to a spot where it's still a knight's move away from the queen. If that's the case, then leave the queen still and move the king instead closer to the action. Let's say the king still stays a knight move away. Continue to move the king to attack the other king, or with the other king. And kings cannot be side by side, so the white king cannot move to any of these squares here. It has to move to a place where there's at least one square in between. We'll say that the king moves there again. Still a knight move away, so now we'll move our king again. We'll move the king right here. So now the black king cannot move to this square or this square, so the black king has to move away. And since the queen is no longer a knight move away from the king, the queen can now move again. A knight move away. We'll move the king right here. Now, the queen is still a knight move away from the king, but because this square is being protected by the king, the queen doesn't necessarily have to stay put. We can now move the queen a little bit closer. And now we have an electric fence along here and an electric fence along here, still squeezing out the king. The king is now a knight's move away, but as you see, this square is being protected by the white king, so the queen can make another move. And you can see how the trash compactor is getting smaller and smaller, and the king has less room to move. We'll go ahead and move the king right here. Now, it wouldn't be a good idea to move the queen here, so we'll leave the queen where she is and move the king over. We could move the king right here, but now, since this square is being protected by the king, the queen can move into this spot. King has to move out of the check. Now here, you have to be pretty careful. Once you get the king on the edge of the board and the queen is on the row, the file, or the rank next to her, then the queen doesn't have to move. In fact, the queen doesn't have to move until it's time for checkmate. So if you get in this position where the enemy king's along the edge and the queen is in the row, the file, or the row next to the king, then the queen doesn't have to move. So we will just go ahead and move our pieces. And again, you'll notice the queen is just staying still. We have an electric fence set up right here. King really doesn't have much place to go. You just keep moving that king closer to the action. Now, white can make a checkmate. And when the king is in a position where the square in front of the king is being protected by the other king, then you can move your queen in for the checkmate, and the game is over. Checkmate. Queen is checking the king, and the king can't move to any other square without being captured on the next move.